Hey there French learners, welcome back to our little corner of the internet where English speakers dive deep into the wonderful world of the French language. If you're new here, bienvenue. Today we're tackling a topic that has befuddled, I love that word, many an English speaker trying to master French grammar. That is the seemingly complicated donc. Yes, donc can be a bit of a head scratcher, but fear not, I'm here to demystify it for you in today's video. So don't say c'est la leçon que j'ai besoin, Alex. Say c'est la leçon dont j'ai besoin, Alex. To learn why, keep on watching and stick around until the end to test your new knowledge with un petit quiz. Du coup, si vous êtes prêts, allez, c'est parti. First things first, let's talk about the various translations of donc in English because there are several possible meanings and I'm going to break them down for you with examples, bien sûr. First of all is donc when it means whose. One of the primary uses of donc is to mean whose. You use it when you want to indicate possession or association. For instance, une personne dont la langue maternelle est le français. Une personne dont la langue maternelle est le français. A person whose mother tongue is French. L'ami dont la voiture est rouge. L'ami dont la voiture est rouge. The friend whose car is red. This one is straightforward, right? Because apart from the inclusion of the definite article, le ou la, the structure is the same as in English. So that's for possession or association, translating to whose. Next up, we move on to when donc can mean of which or whom. Now, admittedly, yes, this other way to use donc is trickier, right? But we don't want everything to be too easy, right? This way to use donc is when it replaces of which or of whom. This often comes into play when dealing with verbs that introduce their object with the preposition de. For example, la maison dont j'ai rêvé pendant mon enfance. La maison dont j'ai rêvé pendant mon enfance. The house of which I dreamed during my childhood. Because it's rêver de quelque chose, and in a standard sentence where verb comes before object, it'd be something like j'ai rêvé de cette maison pendant mon enfance. But when we flip the order, because of the de there required by rêver, we have to use donc to connect the two. Le gâteau dont elle a mangé une part. Le gâteau dont elle a mangé une part. The cake of which she ate a piece. Because it's manger une part de quelque chose. Again, in a standard sentence where verb comes before object, it'd be elle a mangé une part du gâteau. Elle a mangé une part du gâteau. Here's another example, slightly different again. J'ai deux amis, dont un français. Or, dont un qui est français. I have two friends, one of whom is French, or I have two friends of whom one is French. Admittedly, this is harder because even though we can say of which or even of whom in modern everyday English, most of the time we would say which or that or who, followed by the object, followed by or finishing the sentence with the preposition, right? So they'd be separated. For example, the cake she ate a piece of, instead of which she ate a piece. So you need to channel the formal part of your English speaker brain for this to become natural, but it's not too tough, right? Because it does exist in English. Now, this isn't the most tricky scenario with which we can use donc, right? But we're going to get to that in a moment. Let's first talk about a positive and something that you can rely on to a certain degree. A lot of the time in French, where verbs require the preposition de between the verb and the object, their equivalents in English translate the de to of or about. And it's pretty consistent and you can use this up to a point, but if you rely on it too much, you're going to become unstuck. So we'll talk about that tricky case in a moment. Because indeed, this does work a lot of the time, but not every time. Now here's a pro tip. If you find yourself struggling with donc, then it's a really good idea to memorize common verbs that require prepositions, such as de. It will make choosing the right relative pronoun a breeze when you're linking the verb to its object, whether it's que, qui, dont, or something else. Learn that avoir besoin is always followed by de plus an object. Then when you have to put the object before the verb, you know you need dont. Now, on to the next part. Remember a moment ago I said that often French verbs followed by the preposition de translate to English verbs followed by about or of. However, this is not always the case. Avoir besoin de quelque chose translates to need something. Therefore, in French we'd use dont, but in English we wouldn't use about or of. We don't need it. It would be quelque chose dont j'ai besoin, but in English it would be something I need, right? Similarly, once more in English, it'd be the girl I'm in love with because it's to be in love with someone. But in French, it's être amoureux de quelqu'un. So it's la fille dont je suis amoureux. So just because we can translate dont to English in a range of ways, please don't get too attached to these English terms always translating to dont, because it's not the case. This is because verbs in French and English aren't always structured the same. Often they are, but that's just a coincidence. For example, although parler de quelque chose translates to either speak about or speak of something, allowing us to say about which or of which, leading us to use dont in French, être amoureux de quelqu'un is to be in love with someone in English, like I just mentioned. So if you tried to translate from English, you'd end up saying quelqu'un avec je suis amoureux, right? And then get stuck. The preposition is different in English. It's with, and in French, it's de. So just learn the French verbs with their prepositions off by heart, if indeed they take one. And you'll then know if you should use dont or another pronoun to link the object to the verb. So now that we've got a handle on the different meanings of dont, it's time for un petit quiz. But before we dive into that, I want to ask you a little favor. If you're finding this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It just takes one click or one tap down below. It means the world to me and it helps our channel grow. Okay, maintenant c'est parti pour le quiz. Here are 3 English sentences that need to be translated into French using dont. Vous êtes prêts? I have 2 friends, one of whom is French. The destination that she dreamed of, or of which she dreamed, or dreamt. The friend whose dog is sick. Give it your best shot and leave your answers dans les commentaires ci-dessous, and do pause the video, rewind it, go through it again or 3 times or 4 times and try your hand at the quiz. Even write a comment with a different verb that I haven't used in this video that includes the preposition de, just to practice. Right, if you finished the quiz, I really do hope you aced it. If you haven't, no worries. Learning is all about making mistakes and improving from them. You can't improve unless you make the mistakes in the first place. Keep practicing and you'll get the hang of dont in no time. I'll be checking your answers down in the comments and making corrections if necessary. Now remember, language learning is about the journey, guys, not the destination. So don't get too discouraged if dont feels a bit tricky at first. That's why we're making this video. With practice and patience, you'll become a pro. Progrès, pas perfection. Oh, and get your hands on 10 free guides to French confidence via the link in the video's description ci-dessous. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Allez, à la prochaine francophone. Ciao, ciao.